as in Tom, Hayer. I am a longtime activist here in Chicago and very pleased to have with us both of the National Lawyers Guild Chicago chapter, Military Task Force, as well as, of course, About Face Veterans Against the War. Before I introduce our other speakers, I'd like to make a few comments. First of all, to the National Guard's people who may be coming here to Chicago, we know that most of you do not want to be here. We know that you are regular working class folks, most of who signed up for the Guard so that you could help people in national emergencies such as floods, such as fires, and so forth. And we recognize and we respect that. We also know that a lot of you sign up because, like many working class families, you need to have money for tuition, you need to have money for health care, to support your families. We also know that probably the vast majority of you not only don't want to be here, but think it's an utter waste of time, that probably well over $1 million a day would be spent on any deployment. And that's not counting the money spent and lost by individuals as well as businesses. So we have a message to you that is, if you are given illegal orders, you are under no obligation to follow them. Moreover, you should disobey those illegal orders. That is both your right and your duty, not only under the U.S. Constitution, but also under international law. And our About Face and our NLG folks will be speaking more to that in a second. But before I turn over the microphone, I'd also like to make a message to my fellow Chicagoans. And that is this: it is your constitutional right to be out here in the streets to express your outrage about this possible military invasion. It is your right that if you do not exercise it, you will lose it. It's like a muscle. If you do not exercise your rights, you lose them. My other message to my fellow Chicagoans is that you should reach out to the individual Guards people. If you run into them on the streets, strike up a conversation with them. Say some of the things I just said a few moments ago, that they probably don't want to be here. That is they are being used as pawns by this president. They are being used as pawns, and you have not only a right but a duty to disobey illegal orders. My other message to my fellow Chicagoans is this: at 5 p.m. on whatever day the Guard and ICE deploy en masse here to the city of Chicago, come out right here to Federal Plaza at 5 p.m. that day. I repeat, on the day that the Guard deploys to Illinois, come out here on Federal Plaza, Adams and Dearborn, at 5 p.m. and peacefully exercise your constitutional rights. It's not only your right, but your duty to stand up for these rights and to support those Guards people who do the right thing by not following illegal orders. If the invasion happens after 3 p.m., then the assembly here at Federal Plaza at 5 p.m. will happen on the day after. 5 p.m. day of, if it's before 3 p.m., 5 p.m. the next day, Federal Plaza, if it's after 3 p.m. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Hughes of About Face Veterans Against the War.
Thank you, Andy. I'm actually just going to read a short statement to begin, and then I'll be coming back to give my own statement. Artie Walker Pedicola she is the board chair of About Face Veterans Against the War. She helped organize this gathering. She was in a car accident yesterday. She is with her family. She is healing, and she sends her wishes that she wished she could be here with us, and she sent us a short statement. Quote, given that the governor assertion, Artie is a U.S. Army veteran, given that the governor assertion that this deployment is illegal and unconstitutional, the governor should support all those who refuse to deploy and every resistance effort by National Guard service members, everything on the spectrum of resistance. And the governor needs to legally protect and support them in doing so. End quote. With that, I'm going to introduce Daniel.
My name is Daniel Lakemacher, Daniel Lakemacher. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran who was in from 2005 to 2009, and I am a member of About Face Veterans Against the War since 2009. I have messages for three audiences today: the National Guard and all military members, Governor Pritzker of Illinois, and our community here across Chicagoland throughout the state of Illinois. First, to the National Guard and to all military members, you are not alone. I deployed to work in the prisons in Guantanamo Bay in 2007. Returning to my permanent duty station after that deployment, I came back knowing something was very, very wrong. I came back questioning my own role and complicity, and questioning my duty in how I must respond after the things that I participated in. Through that process, I learned about conscientious objection, and that there is a way within the Department of Defense and each branch's military regulations to object to your participation in the military in the present moment in which you live. It is not an easy path, and it's definitely not the only option that you have, but it is one of a number of rights that you have as a National Guards person, as a member of the military, whether active or reserve. Your chain of command or others in your community, friends, family, likely don't know the ins and outs of the conscientious objection process, what qualifies and what doesn't. Many people mistake conscientious objection as an opposition to all wars ever. That is not true. As a member of the military or Guard, conscientious objection is to your participation in this present moment in war. I quickly discovered through that process of filing for conscientious objection that I was not alone, that there were both civilian supporters with decades of experience and expert knowledge of military law and regulations, and I also discovered that there is a community of resistors called, at that time, Iraq Veterans Against the War, and now the same organization with the name About Face Veterans Against the War. I joined About Face Veterans Against the War while I was on active duty as a sailor in 2009. I also was later discharged in 2009 honorably as a conscientious objector. I don't say honorably to highlight that I am somehow any more honorable than people who have resisted and faced all sorts of prosecutions. I say it so that you know that is a possibility. It is not guaranteed, but conscientious objection is one path that you most definitely will not have to travel alone. CO, conscientious objection, is only one option. And at About Face Veterans Against the War, we know it is not enough. It is not enough for this present moment. That is why we are emphasizing the need for all of us to come together and demand a right to refuse. A right to refuse, so that every member of the military has the right to refuse their participation in any operation that they believe is unjust or immoral. So that they don't... Again, to return to this message to the Guard and military members, you are not alone. you're not alone in thinking that this isn't what you signed up for. You are not alone in questioning whether it's moral, just, right, or in this case, even legal to follow these orders. And perhaps most importantly, you will not be alone in refusing orders that violate your conscience. And in this case, you will not be alone in refusing orders that your commander-in-chief, the commander-in-chief of the Illinois National Guard, has called these orders unprecedented, unwarranted, illegal, and unconstitutional. Your commander-in-chief has called these orders illegal. And so now I shift my focus to Governor Pritzker. Governor Pritzker, you made that statement as commander-in-chief of the Illinois National Guard, calling these orders illegal. Back up your words with actions by directing the Illinois National Guard not to report, to refuse these orders. You have so much more power than just words and tweets. Use the resources of the state to support at the individual level any Guards person that refuses. You have an opportunity in this moment, Governor Pritzker, to make Illinois a sanctuary state for any member of the military that is refusing orders that you're calling illegal. Make this state a safe haven for not only the Illinois National Guard, but any other member of the military who refuses to deploy against civilians domestically in our cities. Lastly, I have a message for our local communities here in Chicago and across the state. The National Guard in Illinois, they're not only from here, they live in our neighborhoods. They are members of our community. Reach out to them. Encourage them as the neighbors, family, and friends that they are to you to do what is right. It doesn't matter ultimately what is legally decided. We each have to live with the decisions we make according to our conscience. Support them in knowing that they will not be alone. Tell them that they have a duty to refuse this attempted invasion of our communities. And that is a duty that you share as a civilian as well. We have with us today cards, palm cards, that you can hand out to military members, to Guard members. On one side, they have a QR code that will take military members to an encrypted link, a more secure way of getting in touch with us at About Face. We can then connect you to the Military Law Task Force of the National Lawyers Guild. We can provide community support as veterans and other fellow members who are still on active duty and in the Guard, who are members of About Face. Share these. On the flip side of the card is a link for civilian supporters and allies to be able to get involved in this work to ensure that all military members have the right to refuse. Thank you.